Cool. I'm Mary Beth from Dread Central. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hey, Mary Beth, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Congratulations on 30 years of Leprechaun. Has it actually been 30 years?
Yes. Well, as I remind everybody, I was 8 years old when I directed it, so I guess
Yeah, well, I heard. I'm here to talk to you about being an 8-year-old directing a movie. I mean, what was that?
it's
What
tough.
was it like?
Yes, I know it's amazing that it's still out there. I mean,
Right?
sci-fi. I mean, who would have thought this movie 30 years later? So yeah, it baffles me, but I'm very happy.
Well, so I would love to hear about this was your first feature film, correct? Directing this feature film?
The first feature that I wrote, that I directed, yes.
Yeah. So why a leprechaun? I'd
Uh,
love to hear that.
Very simple. I was writing television at the time, and
Okay.
I was with my secretary at El Torito, and we were having a couple of drinks. And I said, they've done Friday the 13th, they've got Halloween, they did Valentine's Day. I said, nobody's done a Leprechaun, and the Lucky Charms commercials were all over the place. This was the late 80s. And I said, wouldn't it? And I did a little research. I said, leprechauns are always, they're not that sweet. They're kind of mischievous. I said, let's
Oh
do,
yeah.
a horror movie. And because everybody knows it and they've never done, and the title Leprechaun, which by the way, I had to fight to keep the title. At one point they said, well, let's call it, at the end of the rainbow or something. I said, guys, it's Leprechaun. And they spent thousands of dollars testing posters in malls to come back and go, yeah, yeah, you were right. Leprechaun's the best title. So,
Really?
yes, that's true. Uh,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. It's such a good time, but it's so simple. I love the simplicity of it. And again, like you said, there had never been a Leprechaun movie, so everyone was probably like, "Oh, I know exactly what it is."
Yeah.
That is
It had
absolutely
name
out.
value, marquee value. You know, I,
Yeah.
I did another picture called Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah. Was it?
And that actually, with Dino De Laurentiis produced that.
Yep.
Um, Same thing. I said, people know the name, but no one's done a movie about it. So that was sort of my thought.
Cool. I love that. And I also what was your involvement with the design of the leprechaun? Because obviously we have, like you said, the Lucky Charm commercials. We kind of have that image in our head of what a leprechaun looks like, whatever that means. But you obviously take it to a more terrifying extreme. So I just wanted to hear more about the design and where that came from in terms of making your leprechaun.
Well, I actually, I wrote the script and I forgot to try Mark, and I actually hired artists to do renderings of,
Okay.
and it's some interesting stuff. And then when they said we're going to greenlight it, I got together with Gabe Bartolos, who's great, the special effects, and he really created the leprechaun. But he went off of some pictures and artwork that I had done or hired artists to do,
Okay.
and that was very important to get it right because I knew we were going to have some comedy. I wanted it to be scary, but I didn't want it to be a monster. So he made a clay sculpture, and then when we ended up hiring Warwick and came in, and then he worked with Warwick, and so it was an important process to get it.
Oh yeah. To get it right. And I feel like it's so important because now, oh, well, and now he's such an icon. I mean, I know that we always talk about Jason and Freddie, but we cannot ever forget the Leprechaun in the horror history.
And there is a book. I know I'm saying this, and I literally did not write the book, and I don't make any money. But there's a great book on the making of Leprechaun, and
Oh, cool.
and I happen to have it's I'm not so it is a book called The Making of the
I
Movie
mean,
Leprechaun, and it's got pictures, it's got original artwork and stuff. The guy did a good job. He
that's
interviewed
so
a
cool.
bunch of people.
That is so cool too to just have someone be like, hey, can I write a book about the movie that you made? And you're like, oh, sure. What a cool.
I wish I should have made a financial deal, but it didn't matter. You know what? I love the fact that it's out there and it kind of tells the story of how it came about. It's kind of interesting.
That is so cool. Well, I also now that this is spurred a franchise, have you seen all of the Leprechaun films?
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite besides the original, obviously, or not a favorite, but one that has a soft spot in your heart for how it took the direction of the character?
I think number 8, which went
Number
back to
eight.
the original, and I thought even though they didn't use Warwick, I thought the the actor they used did a very good job. Number 8, I thought was not a Leprechaun. It shouldn't have been done. I mean, they just made it a monster. Number 7, I meant number 7.
7. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say I forget how many there are.
There's a
But number 7, Origins, completely took it in a direction, and the fans didn't like it and stuff, so they went back in number 8 and did the Leprechaun Returns, and they're telling me there's going to be a reboot, and hopefully they'll go in that direction. So,
cool.
because I have financial interest in all of it, but not really any involvement.
Oh, I was going to ask how involved you are, but okay, that's
I
cool,
get my
though.
name on there, characters created by, and I do get a nice check, but not nice enough. I I should have made a better deal, but it's okay. I love that they keep the franchise going.
I was going to say it's cool that it's still alive after 30 years like that. And then, I mean, Warwick Davis's performance, I also love to hear more about working with him and just directing him as the villain and what that experience was like, because he's just so good in everything he's in.
He was such a pro, and I think he was like 23.
Was he really? Oh, yeah, I guess so. I guess
Yeah,
so.
and he was a professional. He actually really came from England, and we worked together. And he brought his wife Samantha, who's adorable, and he got into it. He wanted to make it work. He loved acting, and he was a pro. I mean, he had done Willow, but
Yeah.
he knew so much about lighting and marks, and I would give him direction, and he didn't need a lot because we kind of worked on the character. But he was so good. You tell him one little change this, and he would do it. So, and he was just a sweet, sweet guy. And I've stayed in touch with him.
Cool.
And, you know,
Yeah, you actually mentioned something I was curious about. Like when he came to set and he was like bringing the character to life, was there anything that he brought to the character that you hadn't really thought about or written in and that you were excited that he brought as kind of enriching the Leprechaun character?
yeah. Once he got into the makeup and and we did some tests, his movements, and he just kind of it kind of grew, and I would let him go where he would take it because he seemed to just get into it. He brought just an interesting quality that I didn't want to stifle, So, I learned when you have a good actor and you try to direct them, I think sometimes you're better off letting them do what they knew best. And
Yeah.
I give him a lot of credit. He kind of made it his own. But I think he was happy that there was comedy in the script. The original, I've said this before, we kind of fought with the studio. They wanted it more horror, and they didn't.
Oh, okay.
We wanted to, and they cut. There's a lot of scenes that were cut that were very funny. And I keep saying there's a director's cut somewhere, and so we should get Lionsgate to release it.
I mean, that excites me. Can you tease any scenes that were cut that you were really sad that they cut?
Yeah, there was one where the truck drove away, and the camera they cut this. The truck drove away, and then they wanted to just go to the hospital, and the dad got bit. We panned down to the ground, and there were tire tracks, and then Warwick comes up like a cartoon. He comes up from the ground. You don't see him, and he's got tire tracks down his face and his body, and then he runs to the tricycle. And I said, guys, it's a typical road runner cartoon. I came as a cartoon writer I started my career that way. And they said, no, we got to cut it out. So there was a funny scene in the police car after he kills the cop, and he's driving the car, and he takes the donut out of the cop's hand and starts eating the donut, and takes the hat off the cop and puts it on. They wanted that cut. So there's a number of little scenes that, in retrospect, they even have said to me, different executives, yeah, we should have gone with you a little more comedy. But I think there was enough in there.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed one day we get a Leprechaun director's cut. That would be so cool. And then maybe we can chat again about the new film.
It's there. I had a VHS, and I don't know where it is, and I'm scouring to see. It could be in storage. I got to find it. But there is they have it on whatever the master tape is, because we did a rough cut, director's cut. So we should find it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate taking the time to chat with me today about Leprechaun.
Well, I appreciate it. You're very nice. So thank you.
Thank you so much.